There's something quietly revealing about the people who tense up the moment a room begins to fill, as if the air thickens and every sound grows sharper. They're not dramatic about it, not the type to make a scene or announce their discomfort, yet their body reacts long before their mind can explain why. And maybe you've noticed this in yourself, that subtle tightening in your chest, the instinct to scan for exits, the way your thoughts become less like a stream and more like static. You might wonder why some people thrive in crowds, feeding off the noise and movement, while others feel themselves slowly disappearing inside it. To understand this, you have to look beneath the surface, into the quiet architecture of the nervous system. For some, crowded places trigger a form of sensory overload, where the brain struggles to filter competing signals. It's not fear in the dramatic sense, but a biological sensitivity rooted in temperament. Highly sensitive individuals, for example, process stimuli more deeply, and what feels like mild background noise to others can feel like a storm pressing against their skin. Their discomfort isn't a flaw. It's a reflection of a nervous system tuned to notice everything. Then there are those shaped by early emotional environments where unpredictability taught them to stay alert. A crowded space becomes a field of shifting expressions, tones, and movements. Too many signals to track, too many possibilities to anticipate. Hypervigilance, often formed in childhood, doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal, like the person who stands at the edge of the room because their mind is still trying to read every face at once. They're not avoiding people. They're managing the weight of too much information. Another group includes the deeply introverted, whose dopamine pathways respond differently to stimulation. For them, solitude isn't an escape, but a natural state where their thoughts settle and their identity feels intact. Crowds disrupt that internal rhythm, pulling them outward when their energy comes from within. It's not that they dislike people, it's that their mind becomes quieter, clearer, more themselves when the world around them softens. And then there are those whose discomfort is tied to identity and boundaries. In a crowd, the sense of self can blur. The noise, the closeness, the constant movement can feel like an intrusion, as if the world is pressing too close to the edges of who they are. These individuals often have a strong internal world, rich and vivid, and crowded places feel like environments where that inner space is threatened or overshadowed. But the most interesting part is this. People who hate crowded places often carry a depth that isn't immediately visible. They're observers, the ones who notice the small shifts others overlook. They're thinkers, processing the world in layers rather than snapshots. They're feelers, attuned to emotional undercurrents that most people move past without sensing. Their discomfort isn't a weakness. It's a sign of how deeply they experience the world. And if you recognize yourself in any of this, it doesn't mean you're fragile or antisocial. It simply means your mind has its own rhythm, its own thresholds, its own way of protecting clarity. Crowds don't erase your strength. They just reveal the places where your inner world speaks louder than the outer one. And maybe that's not something to fix, but something to understand. A quiet truth about the way you move through the world and the way the world moves through you.